this could be very successful for them, snowballing through bot lane and using that to get a lead to play their mid game out from.
All right, well, let's jump right into Champion Select then and get this one started. Right off the bat, taking out the Jace here for the solo laners. That will be one carry unavailable. Ashe, not a huge surprise as far as being banned out here. I was more expecting it from the Flash Wolves side. But one thing that we have also mentioned about Betty, in addition to kind of building fairly defensively with maybe early QSS buys, a lot of people are doing the Ninja Tabbies nowadays. He has also played mostly the Ashe, Varus, and Jhin, those sort of the old guard of the utility AD carries.
Yeah, utility AD carries is something that makes sense, right? If you look at Flash Wolves, their core has always been like their mid-jungle support. They've been trying to find the right AD carry, and then they have a Stake-esque top laner, whether it's Stake himself, who now moved to coaching, or it's MMD, who is kind of sink or swim, just kind of survive in the top lane, but it's mostly bottom side focused, and then those picks have good value.
Yeah, and it does seem right off the bat here from Flash Wolves side that they're trying to protect MMD a bit. They definitely felt the burn after that first series that they had, and they're trying to ban out some of those carries you talked about for Expect.
And G2 was actually doing something similar versus SKT. They were doing the kind of same style of bans against Huni. You know, they respect the pecking order right here. You know, Expect has to respect Huni.
Huni is definitely the top of the pecking order.
Yeah, and MMD has to respect Expect here in the pick and ban.
Well, we'll see what kind of respect's going to be coming out of this one. The early pick Lulu is the hover, and back in North America, that was pretty much the entire way through the playoffs. We'll see what actually comes out of it, though.
I'm very interested to see if G2 will go for an early round Varus here, because I talked about, Betty very, very heavily focusing in on those utility AD carries, and Jhin has really fallen out. I'm definitely not a big fan of the Jhin, but it's no AD carries so far, and Krepo super happy about double shield.
Yeah, nobody wanted to, I was going to jump in. I was like, no, I'm going to let my co-caster finish here, because I want to say, like, I want to see Karma Ivern here, because I think it makes a lot of sense for Zven protection here. If anything we've learned from watching SKT in the finals is that you don't give Karma and Lulu to the same team, and then you may as well index very deeply there. The Graves ban maybe telegraphed the Ivern pick as well, because that was one of the main reasons Graves came back into the meta early in the season. It was to combat exactly that Ivern.
At the same time, you're playing against Karsa, who's... You can make the case, though it's maybe a bit of a stretch, the best jungler in the tournament. He's definitely in that top echelon of world-class junglers, and you have the top two banned away from him, maybe to limit him somewhat, and he's now hovering on a Rengar, who, after most recent nerfs, I feel like is only situationally good, and we'll see if he can make an impact on it. Yeah,
Rengar definitely did feel the last round of nerfs. And we've seen a lot more junglers go with purely a one quadrant clear to an early back for him. It both protects your Krugs from being stolen, as well as deals with how low that he does get into the jungle right now. There is being said, yes, he can use Ivern's bush brushes against him a little bit for extra hops, but as you said, very situational.
And this is where the debate comes in. When you second rotation and mid on blue side, teams have to decide, do we match that mid laner immediately, or do we preserve the Karma or the Lulu flex that we've seen about in the past? Like SKT, for example, here would never pick a mid laner, would never pick the Ryze. They would just flex the Karma, end up playing it mid lane into the LeBlanc and be fine. However, G2 eSports seem to really value the push that the Karma brings as a support, and they're fine taking the Ryze matchup.
Yeah, as well as not even just being fine with the Ryze matchup, but a lot of mid laners actually really liking that one into the current LeBlanc that you do have to worry about so much. So we'll see what the second round does come through here, because as you said, all the roles actually were matched here. Yep. So it's not going to just be that power focus on the unmatched role, rather the power champions.
That leaves the counter pick for top lane. So in some worlds you could go for some top lane bans and pick the best tank remaining, so go first pick Gragas
take
here,
a Shen or something, or Gragas.
Still has the counter pick here, so maybe just get a good AD carries for Zven, leave the counter pick to Expect, and then G2 should have a pretty well-rounded shot here versus Flash Wolves.
Yeah, and I think that Flash Wolves would definitely love a tank v tank matchup for MMD, because I talked about it a little bit, but yeah, MMD even in their home league had some trouble during laning phase. He doesn't have the best CS numbers versus even domestic top laners there, and would love to just go tank v tank. Has definitely more confidence in those trading matchups on the top side, and it looks like he might be able to get that. Yeah,
they should ban Gragas here, or they leave both Gragas and Nautilus up, and then Gragas is the best remaining pick. I think G2 are probably going to switch it up and just first block your top laner, because 1, 2, 3,
Shen is still available.
6 ban. Okay, yeah, but Shen has been nerfed.
Well, Shen's going to get played up anyway, and yes, this does leave Gragas and Nautilus as the two probably premier tanks left over, aside from the Shen ban. Both teams were panning away the somewhat situational, like, non-tank top laners that those players still played. And said, okay, here we go, bring us the Nautilus, bring us this. And with that double shielding team, the supportive jungler and the shielding support here going to be played by Mithy. Looks like Zven's going to be on a high damage champion, had hovered Twitch before, and actually, they're going to wait until they see the comp. It's trolling me. What's it going to be? It's going to be the Caitlyn. High damage, very safe, and a lot of lane pressure.
Yeah, there are a lot of options to go with here. Caitlyn obviously also benefits pretty heavily from the Ivern brush, but I definitely want extra survivability when I'm against the combo of a Rengar Lulu. That's the other thing there. Lulu, everyone always focuses on how she can, soup up the hyper carries there towards the late game, but it is definitely still super scary with the Rengar, and one of the combos that you can use to still bring that champion out even after the nerfs.
What's weird to me, though, is they actually rushed the Caitlyn because Betty's always going to pick Varus here in this champ select. It's pretty much all he plays so far this split, and you can see more of what your opponents are playing. So this says, to me, if you're G2, that they're hoping to counterpick in some small way top lane. Either Gragas is not the best top laner, or they have something they want to play into the Gragas, because otherwise I don't think Caitlyn goes away, and you can pick your picks at a different order.
Yeah, at the same time, though, for Zven, he probably values Caitlyn over Varus in the same way. He's like, it's a better pick, a better fit here. But I definitely agree. Would have loved to see just Gragas first, because I feel like Gragas always has the edge in the Gragas Nautilus matchup, especially with the W max.
Yeah, I mean, how secure do they feel in their scouting of Betty that he'll stick to the pattern, right?
Yeah. Well, Betty's played exactly one Caitlyn game all year, and it was 12 Varus, and it was a loss.
And we saw that Caitlyn game, and it was not that pretty.
Yeah.
All right, here we go, though. It will be the double shields coming in and a strong front line for G2 to try and fend off the Flash Wolves with the Rengar being at the pilot.
All right, 2 threats on G2. It's all about PerkZ and Zven, the letter Z synergy, if you will. And you expect Zven and Mithy to have a very good landing phase. I like those two in a 2-on-2. They should have the push lead, I feel. Of course, Krepo, you're the better bot laner than I am, but it looks pretty solid for them. And they had gotten their lead through bottom lane against SKT. And if this is the format they are on, if this is how they play in 7.8, the patch that we are on right here, then if that's their style, then maybe it can work for them.
And I always want to jump to jungle conversation, especially for the early game when Ivern is in the game, because Ivern can do so many more unique starts and force specific jungle pass on the enemy, especially if you do have a bottom lane like a Caitlyn Karma that has such good, pushing from very early on from the bottom lane. There's so many different opportunities that you can use with the instant camp steal there from Ivern to try and force your enemy jungler into your hands, and that's something that WE did very early on there with Condi making very early moves against Karsa.
We'll see if this is going to happen here. Always fun to watch what Ivern's can do in this one. Rengar typically does get a bit lower in his clear. Not that Ivern's going to fight him in the invade, but maybe it makes it a bit safer when that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, definitely not going to fight him.
Ivern's 1v1, not exactly the power of that champion, but maybe when you have some backup, it makes him a bit more scared. We'll see what happens as the players are getting ready for their second and final for these players game of the day. Of course, there are 2 more to be played after this one, as the remaining 4 teams will play a second game. You have the champions, the roster is up above the players. And we'll see what these teams can do into this one. Both of these teams did lose their first game of the series, but it is important that these squads make it into the top 4 by the end of the group stage and give their teams and give their regions a pool 1 seed at the World Championship. Top 4 at the bare minimum is what you need here at the Mid-Season Invitational. G2 and Flash was hoping to represent their regions to do so. Yeah,
and these are 2 of the teams with some of the most to prove here at this MSI. This is the first international tournament where Flash Wolves have been given a lot of credit heading into this tournament and being placed very high by many analysts, and everyone's gone over G2 and their redemption story. Yeah, and G2, they spot the same invade that got them the success against Faker right there, the 5-man from mid lane diving in the side to surprise the 5th scout there in the banana brush. So Flash Wolves, they get pushed back and we get a standard start. Jumping back on that jungle matchup, Kobe, I do think it's also great to see that Ivern can just quickly visit lanes much easier than a Rengar can. And in this style where it's all about bot lane pushing and just pressure and then moving that pressure somewhere else, Ivern definitely is something we need to track to see what Trick is doing with those little visits. I love, as soon as you get Daisy, as soon as you get level 6, that's so much just... It's a giant glob of health that you can use to push, 20% of a tower's health. Just head into lane, like you're saying. Use the extra range from the brush and get a lot more damage. And it's these small incremental leads in tower health, or in an extra wave push to buy back timing for your laners that really add up. And those are the things that culminate in the big objectives. Yeah, in terms of bot lane, the first common mantra Q is something we'll have to track. I do love the evolution here of top laners learning their place.
Gragas, even to Raptors, will have to put a barrel and then walk the long journey back to the top lane.
That was actually a super sexy jungle start there. I know you're going to love it, Krepo. The double ferocity off of the blast cone for the Rengar combined with the super leash from the Gragas barrel.
Well, let's see. Is he going to kill that red buff and use his trinket ward right here? Kobe, a completely new tactic, definitely not long existing already.
The pinnacle of the Rengar clear on this red quadrant. I know Krepo super in love with the trinket ward over that Krug's wall just for extra vision. By the way, yeah, not new. That has been around for pretty much the duration of Rengar, but he is mixing it up and going back to the top side here. Let's take a look.
Yeah, so Karsa heading back to the top side here. Going to grab the Wolves pretty easily on this one. The heal on the red buff helping as well. I don't know the Ivern jungle pass that well. I don't know if he's able to protect his own blue buff by doing this, but he will not lose any of his jungle.
He basically gets access to the left side and doesn't allow Ivern to set up 3 camps, go somewhere else and come back. Because if he goes for triple clear right side and bases, he could lose way more of his jungle. He's essentially securing 2 out of 3 camps on his left side now.
But also Trick on the same side is not even going for the aggressive, thieving Ivern route. This is the power clear, very, very quick level 4 Ivern route. We've seen this a whole bunch in the North American LCS. Just smiting the blue, clearing that, prepping that whole side, and then moving back over to clean up every single camp that he has already prepped. Extremely fast full clear for the Ivern, and then you can get out onto the field feeling a lot more confident. Here comes the first vision on Karsa, and they'll be alerted to his movements.
Yeah, also playing with respect, popping an extra brush in the already existing brush to make sure the Rengar isn't just magically invading. Not going for a risky invade on Karsa, because G2 know if they play their standard game, as after watching Flash Wars earlier, they should definitely have a shot.
Yeah, and right now you're going to see that first recall will come to Trick. He'll have plenty of money to spend. Maybe he'll go boots and try to get around the map a bit more. Karsa going to get, I think, level 4 off of the Grom to be a bit slower on the overall play. Nice trade down to the bottom lane. Betty actually getting plenty of damage down onto Zven, but you're seeing a 9 minion lead. As Krepo points out to be on the screen, G2 are getting the minion lead early on.
I'm sure you saw that one yourself.
Yeah, I looked at it too, but I was like, I'll give you credit, Krepo.
Yeah, back to your Ivern point though, the other thing about it as far as the full clear recall, it always involves a tremendous amount of vision. You upgrade for your extra wards from your jungle item, as well as bringing the extra 75 gold for the control ward, and now he's going to try and go contest Scuttle Crabs here. The bottom one actually still up, so he is going to be able to prep it. No smite quite available yet, but he should be able to contain vision of that area long enough for the channel to complete and not have to expend it. Your flashes with Ivern are very, very important because those are what you use for your instant counter jungling. And those things are very good for reactive gameplay, which is super important for the junglers at this stage.
You see a big trade in the mid lane. PerkZ does still take the backside of the chain, but looks like he came out ahead in health with that one. Both have gotten their first recalls off. Maple TP to go back into the lane, so that is at least a cooldown down that Flashwolves cannot use. PerkZ otherwise equal in the lane, Maple the same.
And I think both teams are happy with the start we're seeing right here. Like G2, they get to take it slow. PerkZ gets his tier on first back. Maple can accelerate his basing a little bit with that first teleport. Zven and Mithy have a CS advantage, but then Betty had that good trade. So everybody is just okay with the way it's going.
Everybody gets a little something here from Krepo. Definitely true. Expect a half-life, though, after both top laners have used teleports now. MMG just used his to get back to base. Nautilus, the expected shove, and then roam down to mid lane here for a little bit of a look.
The classic Hanser roaming from top lane.
Root, there's the anchor and a lot of damage, and Maple forced to flash away and expect flashing to do nothing for the follow. I think he had already autoed, so what's he going to get out of that one? Missing a summon spell now as expect.
Yeah, until that extra expenditure of the flash from expect, really good setup and what to expect, right? Really good setup here from PerkZ. You talked about him going for the guaranteed plays, right? You set him up with the Rune Prison, sets up a very easy anchor there, and that is going to put some pressure on Maple. Here comes Trick to actually help push the wave as well.
And this is what Trick has always been good at, is just kind of visiting lanes and pushing out. Trick, even in last year's games, wasn't the most gank-heavy jungler. He was just trying to maximize efficiency. That's why G2's early games often were a tad slow, because camping in a brush for a long time to set up a gank isn't really Trick's style. He'll try to maximize his camps in between helping his lanes.
Nice juke by Betty, gets away from the Peacemaker right there. Pretty important. And otherwise, the bot lane's trading more closely to equal. Interestingly, Betty is going for the more aggressive of the Keystones. Pretty much everyone does go fervor. I think Caitlyn can easily get away with it. If you're against the aggressive lanes, sometimes you want to consider Warlords if you're Betty, but fervor will be more damage. And he's actually managed to tie up the score pretty much. And looks like everything's going to be okay for the Flashwolves bot lane, despite seeing the early lead for G2.
They're also running the Ignite. It also helps just kind of cover that disadvantage maybe. If you want to go sustain, usually if your support's running Ignite, you get a little bit more pressure in that lane. allowing you to get away with maybe some greedier choices.
Yeah, I actually love that the recent nerfs to exhaust did open up a lot of space for Ignite in the bottom lane. For G2, they're definitely taking the exhaust still for the assassins that Flash Wolves are fielding at the moment. Not only are Karsa and Maple star players for this team, but they are both at the head of very, very potent assassins.
We just saw a little thing done by PerkZ right here. You get, I think it's 1 minute for the Ivern's buffs to stay on the ground before they will time out on their own. And PerkZ says, I will recall first. I will maximize the duration of the blue buff by grabbing it later on the back half of that 1 minute timer so that I have it for a bit more time on the map. I needed to recall anyway, getting some magic resist going towards the early Spectre's Cowl to survive the Maple matchup.
One thing to be said, though, for this game, Flash Wolves definitely have a vision advantage at the moment. And, Trick is sort of fighting this war kind of by himself at the moment, as everyone else is kind of pinned down. Flash Wolves, not huge moves that they're going to be able to make with this, but you have to worry because it is such, a step-by-step process in trying to get that vision back.
And this early Ivern hasn't really been able to do anything, and I think Karsa is definitely happy there. Once this game moves into kind of 1-3-1 formation, Rengar, that's where he will shine, right? Like ganking these side lanes, especially when they get longer, a few turrets go down, so that may actually be what causes the first one, because both these teams seem stuck in kind of a gridlock, just lane until the first gank comes out from Karsa.
And something that we can see kind of put a break to this gridlock is, will Trick actually try and use this Daisy to either force some siege pressure on bottom lane or even start up Drake? It's such a good tank for starting up Drake if you have vision, if you have control in this area of the map. As of right now, though, the control not there, so whoever does move in there first is going to be taking that risk.
Yeah, great play for G2. Could be just grouping Trick and PerkZ together in mid lane, push out, roam to the bottom lane, pop Daisy, teleport comes out, and go for the bot lane party. The problem is, Flash Wolves, their bot side vision is usually pretty solid.
We go a little bit of pressure in the mid lane, nothing going to do much.
Nice use there, Maple with the clone, blocking one of the Qs from PerkZ in the trade. Small things to get a little health advantages in those trades definitely do add up. Also have to keep your eyes on the purchase timings here. A bad recall at this moment, or a very big chunk in lane, can be the catalyst for forcing one of those moves you're talking about, Krepo.
Yeah. Not a fan of this Q max though on MMD in the top lane of the Gragas. I've seen Gragas so often dominate the Nautilus matchup with maxing W, going for a lot of trades in that melee matchup, but it seems like MMD just wants to have comfort in wave clear.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the Q-Max get more and more popular, but yeah, against the melee matchups, I tend to agree. I really do like the value of at least a couple extra points into the W.
It's not going to happen right now, though, and it's actually Expect who's been able to wave clear first anyway, despite the higher ranked barrels, MMD, and you're going to see a nice little trade right there. Shields up, doesn't take too much damage, but of course the red buff means that Expect will be full health basically at all times, and just kind of inherent lane dominance as a result.
Path is well protected though towards that bot side. If G2 ever want to make that roam, they'll have to walk to a Skullercraft, 2 wards and a control ward, whereas if Maple can find a way out of this mid lane ever, he will go pretty much undetected.
Yeah, and the mid lane is actually pretty interesting because these are some very early pickups on the Mercury treads for both of the mid laners. That's a large amount of money to spend on tenacity this early on. Yes, there is substantial crowd control on both sides, but kind of gives you a window into the mindset of both these mid laners at the moment. Yeah,
there's 2 ways to approach it. You can go for the full Negatron approach, or you go a little bit more heavier on the mobility. I think definitely for Maple we can support these Merc treads. You're playing against Ivern and Ryze, and if we saw what Nautilus was doing too, if any flash snare gets comboed with follow-ups, you see, you're going to be so happy you bought those Merc treads.
Exactly. He has bought time for his flash to come back up. And Karsa, again, laying down that front line of wards. They still retain a little bit of an edge in that river.
And we'll see how it pans out in the future. 200 gold lead right now for Flash Wolves as a team. As a fake clone going to the mid lane, and PerkZ goes, guys, LeBlanc's missing. But she's back in base, of course.
Is it a fake clone or is it a real clone? A clone by nature is fake.
I don't know. I feel like clones are actually real. I mean, there's a clone sheep running around named, I think it's Betty. That was a while ago. Betsy. Doesn't matter. It's really not important anymore.
It plays in some league, and whether it's Betsy or Betty.
I don't remember if you guys remember that story from like a couple decades ago. Regardless, we're not talking about clones. We were talking about League of Legends and Karsa back into the jungle. Both these junglers still level 8 right now, and it's just been Ryze trying to farm. And I feel like if you're going to play defensively forever, stacking a Patir and a Rod of Ages is probably the one that wins that.
Yeah, definitely. Loving these wards from Expect to. Every time a top laner can disappear and no longer be the selfish top laner and ward just right next to your river, but you go deep in the enemy jungle, you neutralize the threat that the enemy jungler poses, and you help your team.
Funny that so often the top laners getting credit for those wards are the ones playing the Nautilus. Good shoving from him, though. Definitely well-deserved. And here we go. We are seeing the Ivern visit to the lane. Notorious. Not really full of action, but it definitely does get the ball moving here.
You have been visited by the Ivern of lane push. Say thank you, Trick.
But where's Daisy? Daisy has not graced us with her presence yet. And that doesn't. If she doesn't come out, then they're not really committing to it.
All right, now Mabel just committing to killing a ward and does get rooted, but no one's really... All right. No harm, no foul, and that control ward will regen out of being out of combat.
You can kind of see how tentative both teams are playing this too. And this also, we have to remember both these teams lost their opening game. Yes, there was a very formidable opponent, and G2 were probably expecting to lose their opening game to SKT, but also Flash Wolves, kind of reeling a little bit from their loss versus WE.
In most predictions, G2 were slaughtered for 0-2 today. That would be an acceptable result. The only thing people were kind of talking about is like, will they tilt if they indeed then go 0-2? And now they're taking an ultra safe approach here. But they're so comfortable in their scaling. Their late game is more than fine with the Ryze and the Caitlyn. And that's also how they have played so often domestically in Europe. Going for kind of the 80% plays in the early game, knowing that late game, especially putting their money on Zven and PerkZ, will net them the win.
Definitely true. With the way that the support items now work with shielding champions and the buffs that you can get when the locket starts coming in on top of the redemption, there is a lot of safety in this G2 composition later that they can rely on, and they're kind of looking just to get to that point at the moment. Caitlyn starts to build up the crit multipliers, and they just really have to rely on protecting her.
On the other side, if we've watched a lot of Flash Wolves, we saw great synergy and target selection. When these guys enter a fight, especially later in the game, like they can really take a guy down. So it's going to be really fascinating to see whether Karsa, Maple, and potentially even Betsy can all focus the same target fast enough to get through one iteration of shields, but kill them before the second.
Maple's LeBlanc specifically has been one of the most enjoyable LeBlancs to watch in team fights, in skirmishes, all over, in all aspects of the game. Very recently from him. It's incredible to see the openings that he can get with this champion and really make it work even against the more solid setups.
Wow, all right, well, you can see the risk aversion there from PerkZ. He's killing a ward and says someone might show up on the screen. Time to ult away.
Yeah, safety first,
Yep.
He does get the control ward, and that is, when the game slows down, it's never going to go straight to a kill. It's always a war for vision first, especially with two teams that are so similar in their approach, kind of top laner on the island, junglers that value efficiency, focus around bot side, but none of these mid laners are letting each other roam. They're just constantly contesting that vision, trying to get the push. It makes for a bit of a boring game, but the beauty's in the subtleties.
No, it's not going to be boring. We're going to have a record set today. Earlier, Faker was the fastest first blood in MSI history, and here in 25 seconds, we will have the slowest first blood in MSI history. 15 minutes, 7 seconds, the record here. G2 could set both in the same day. Oh, baby.
They're going for that Guinness Book of World Records strategy here.
How many records can you set in a day world record? That's got to be a new one as well.
Honestly, though, we should be setting up, the powder keg that could explode, right? This Flash Wolves team, when you look at it, you're like, yes, Phreak's doing a very...
We don't have the live crowd here in Brazil.
Great dance there. Glad we don't have the camera on him. But, I mean, they've got Rengar post level 6 for quite a long time, and a double teleport set up for their solo laners with crowd control from the bottom lane. Like, there are a lot of options that really, could be the thing to really ignite this action. But again, still staying very safe. Another reason for that as well is that this is an Ocean Drake. It's not one of those Infernals to really force the early hand and force people into trying to take a bigger risk to go for it.
Yep, Infernal definitely statistically the strongest, and it's going to be PerkZ taking another route, but with Merc Treads, shouldn't dig too much on the backside.
Yeah, as you can see every time, blocking with the clone. He's also able to get his Thunderlord's proc. Karsa, this vision coverage that we keep on mentioning, keep saying, oh, they've got this extra line in the river. They've had it for so long, and he moves in again with that control ward, easily able to secure this Drake for themselves.
Yeah, Karsa.
They're just going to take this opportunity to the base stand. They trade a Dragon for a free base, hopefully they then get a little bit more advantage later on, but Zven ends up staying there. The pressure is slowly moving towards the Flash Wolves. They're chipping away that bot lane turret. They're getting the river control. This Rengar is scaling up after some slight nerfs on the Q. 7-7/7-8. That's something they will have to deal with.
As you mentioned, health lead for the Flash Wolves, bottom turret. I'm going to check into the mid as well and pretty much no damage on the Maples, and a little bit more actually has been dealt towards Perk, so mid lane turret pressure as well, and as they check the top, expects is down to half, and MMD's barely been touched. So yeah, the slow laning phase, you're seeing the gold is practically the same, 300 up, but all 3 turrets have taken more damage, and of course that Drake lead as well, which will pay off at some point during the game, so Flash Wolves in very small ways are winning so far.
And it doesn't, they're not really concerned with the pace of the game. You can see everyone's buying a little bit of defense for themselves as well. Because we're a little bit of another trade here with PerkZ. The only boots that we've actually even seen them purchase are defensive upgrades for the boots. The double Mercury treads, and then Betty with his love of the Ninja Tabby once again. Everybody getting at least a little bit of survivability for themselves as they prepare for this mid game.
So you expect starting to get pushed around a little bit here in this one. You saw him kind of anchor cross away down to half HP. Likely doesn't want to use teleport to get back to lane, but otherwise sitting at half health, not ideal. Good chunk on a SwordArt actually. Eat a trap and take so much damage. You gotta block that, don't screw it up, and Betty's gonna take over the shot.
This is what's tricky about these long laning phases that span well into 15 to 20 minutes, is that as a support, you can no longer contest an AD carry. Early on, your base damages are very similar. Right now, this guy's sitting on BF Hurricane. You're not going to win that trade, so suddenly SwordArt has to play backwards, which means it's Betty in the front, but he's just playing safe in his farm department.
It is worth noting, by the way, that Zven is going for the Infinity Edge style build. We still see a lot of Ruin King Caitlyn. Of course, we don't see her much overall, but it also means that that champion will tend to outscale. The 80% IE crit Caitlyn is a machine gun of damage.
Which,
with 2 supports, is what you want to see.
Exactly.
As a primary
as
carry.
soon as you mention Blade of the Ruin King Caitlyn, I'm grimacing like, oh, I do not want to see that.
Have seen, but
yeah, all right, here we go, action, baby.
Ults it in, it's only Trick in the front, but he's Whimsy just running out of HP, and talk about efficiency, delivers first blood to Karsa.
Yeah, that's a communication error here by G2, because PerkZ was near Trick. They were going for it, but they probably said, you know what, the jungler's there, let's back out, but Trick did not get that memo. He gets delivered, and now suddenly 2 kills go towards the Flash Wolves.
Now 2-0 out of nowhere, Flash Wolves pick them both up in the 19th minute.
Huge mistake there on the miscommunication. You know, Trick did not get the abort call on that Ryze ultimate, and it's still going on.
Oh, Redemption's not going to do much for him, but he still will go down. The trade kill is best as it could have been.
All right, so these are 2 reactionary plays. When your enemy mid laner goes bot lane, you never match. You go cross match through the top lane, expect find himself surprised there as well, tries to defend the turn and falls. PerkZ, returning from his first failed mission, just pushes up mid and goes back bot again. So this is then Betty and SwordArt slightly overstaying here. What a, honestly, comedy of errors.
Huge key as well on top of all this, though, when you take stock. Remember that force on the top side from Flash Wolves, they've also netted the first turret. Big objective there. Huge cash in on top of not only these kills that have been traded across.
Yeah, what that does for the map state, Gragas can go bottom lane right now. He can hold that turret. LeBlanc can play on a long lane. Rengar can lane gang for the LeBlanc. And Varus and Lulu are more than comfortable playing in the mid lane.
And it is very important as well that the Gragas teleport was indeed used. All right, here, let's take another look at this replay, though, as this was the Zven and Mithy going in for the lockout, and PerkZ roam down bottom.
Yeah, if you see your mid laner in the top lane, you should not be overstaying here. You should be happy that you already got the free donated Ivern kill right there. So that is a mistake from the Flash Wolves. G2, they do take the only play they could make at the time after their mistakes, hoping to not get that gold deficit too big, but this is 3,000 gold for the Flash Wolves. Yeah,
so now really we're looking at, will G2 be able to manipulate this teleport advantage that Expect now has into some sort of action for themselves? They still are on a decent path for Zven, trying to build towards his IE. That is very important to really get a lot of value there, but Flash Wolves have jumped out to a pretty crucial mid-game lead here.
Yeah, it's 3,000 gold plus a Drake. This is a pretty solid situation to be in right now. Statistically, you're looking at like a 70% win rate with a lead like that, and it's pretty likely that Flash Wolves can keep running this one out. If Zven does start taking over the game, then great, that's going to be G2's comeback sort of mechanism, but with about 100 magic just on Maple, he's certainly not going to die to PerkZ anytime soon, and you can see MMD and Karsa building pretty defensively for magic damage as well. We'll see what happens as they're starting to take over this top jungle.
For G2, it's all about caddying. CC layering, you know, snaring the trap, you know, with another snare, hiding in the bushes, protecting Zven. He has shown great mastery of this. OG Niels back in the day.
Yep.
Is used to be playing around, but at a deficit, can G2 still do it?
First, we'll see a cleanse comes out from PerkZ. He's going to try to get away, and Jukes backwards, goes into the redemption. He'll stay alive a bit longer, but here comes Karsa. He's got the empowered Bola, and that's going to be 4-1. Flash Wolves find even more.
Yeah, Flash Wolves are rolling right ahead, and G2 still has some time to wait. The Infinity Edge and the Locket would come in at very similar timings for themselves, and that would be a big boost, but those are not there, and the picks continue to roll through for Flash Wolves. They've opened up the territory. Vision now just flooding into G2 territory.
And that is the win condition for this Flash Wolves composition in the mid game. You know, put the LeBlanc on the side lane. Rengar either ganking for Gragas or for LeBlanc, meaning that if G2 respect this, they hug the turrets, and then even then, Flash Wolves could just move into the enemy jungle.
Speaking of moving into the jungle, taking out Mithy pretty quickly, and that one barely gets away. Did empower his W to heal him up a little bit, and barely stayed alive. Flash Wolves still in control this one, 3,500 ahead.
And they also have a lane priority in the mid lane with the Varus too, so everywhere G2 by now is feeling so pressured.
Looking for pressure down on the bot side. It's expected a 1v2, knocked into the wall, rooted up by Karsa as well. Looks to run to the brush. Double stun comes in and expects to hoping that his teammates can come by. Here's the Ivern, it's going to be for the root. And the walk away Daisy here to buy a bit of time and expect actually going to flash. Unsure if needed, but did want to get away.
A bunch of flashes being blown recently here by Flash Wolves, pressuring G2, and they're just setting them up for this big double teleport collapse play. Their double teleports come back off of cooldown now. Maple is just constantly creating pressure all over the map. He can transition into the split push with LeBlanc. Karsa easily gets up to pick up this extra Draken. Flash Wolves, this is kind of what people were expecting coming into the tournament.
Ocean Drake does have some level of value, specifically for Betty, who, unlike in the beginning of the year, you're seeing a lot of tier that got us on Varus. This time, no mana regen, so the actual regen that it provides will help him maintain lane pressure for longer without having to recall. There's going to be some level of pushback for that. MMD able to split push the bot lane after forcing the flash away from Expect. Had some alone time, and now it is 2-0 in turrets. G2 have only gotten 1 kill all game. The only thing that gained the entirety of the first 24 minutes.
Well, Buddy loves these like hyper-efficient defensive AD carry builds. You know, the PD for the dueling potential, Tavis to come on top of that, so it's not the most damaging.
Next. Yeah.
And he goes extra next.
And to be fair though, MMD's winning his 1v1, Maple's arguably winning his as well, and Karsa running around killing people. All you need to be is an ult bot at that point, so I mean, this style will work. It's a style that Flash Wolves used all year.
Yeah, it's kind of what I mentioned before, where everybody's building a little bit of their own defenses. So they're kind of taking out the single kill over, going over to the other side kind of pressure there. That being said, if you're rooting for G2, some of those key items are coming in now. That Locket and Infinity Edge that we were talking about have come in for them. They have to still fight their way out of this hole though. And right now for G2, it is defense mode.
Yeah.
Caitlyn traps, brush from Ivern, they're trying to hold on.
Keep that mid lane turret alive. That's the last bastion for G2 eSports. If they lose that, this style of pushing the side lanes and pincering and collapsing and moving into the enemy jungle from the Flash Wolves will be too much to bear. But if they can keep this up for maybe 5 minutes more, then we're looking at a completely different game. You know, the longer we move into the late game, Zven has the potential to carry this.
I do want to point out, it's actually a different build from LeBlanc as well. I feel like we've seen Gunblade LeBlanc almost exclusively for the last 2 months since the most recent round of nerfs. This is completely standard Merlinomicon, Abyssal Scepter, to probably Void Staff third. Just, it's not as much of that sustaining duelist, it's the conventional mage items.
All right, here comes the extra pressure from Flash Wolves, just trying to chip away at the turret. They get a little bit more of the damage, but G2 still farm for late mentality, defending as best they can.
And not a Flash Wolves, they need to constantly change it up. Move top lane, move mid lane, move left and right, up and down, constantly try and surprise G2, because that has been their main weakness. Even over multiple iterations of this roster, it's when things rapidly change, that's when G2 starts suffering, and the communication isn't fast enough.
Here comes the dive, Block is going to buy a bit of time, solo redemption, but the turret's already gone down. That bastion has been destroyed, and G2 forced to retreat anyway. Flash Wolves still the team with the lead, taking over more of this map.
Crucially there, you know, Zven did get out when he burned his flash, and they have a bunch of shields coming through, but G2 now, I mean, these things will slowly start to take their toll, and Zven is definitely the key to this composition, pulling off the defense here.
Yeah, but it's Flash Wolves who have been the ones pulling the trigger. It's Flash Wolves who have been winning this game. G2 is like, we'll wait and scale, but until that scale shows up, it's Flash Wolves just pound for pound playing a whole lot better on this one, hoping to be the heavyweight in this matchup. And now looking for a bit more as Maple touches down and takes out Mithy by himself in front of Trick's face, doesn't even care.
And this is actually very crucial because Flash Wolves are in a partial reset. 2 of their members are in base, loading up the stock, you know, getting the wards ready to insert into the enemy jungle, and they take out the enemy support, which means 5v4 on the map with full side stones. Flash Wolves can get control.
I think they were fully fooled by that clone there from Maple. Really good manipulation right there, and he does get the cheeky kill onto Mithy. Also reduces a lot of their ability to fight back in the vision wars here, as the war over this defensive vision is very tough when your support is not on the table for even a few minutes.
Yeah, we get to see, we talk so often about Karsa and Maple, the duo. But something that we then forget is that SwordArt and Karsa are also a great unit in terms of taking control of any area between two pushing lanes, and that's what they want to do right now. Deep red side, set up that vision, have Maple push that top lane. The more vision he has, the deeper he can push as well, the more pressure you can have to then put even more vision, eventually isolating this Baron.
All right, here we go. In with
really
the clone. He uses the other one to walk back and immediately changes directions with it. Usually won't expect, very quick changes in directions. You'll see that sometimes from Shaco players as well. Right after using your ultimate, you'll press R instead of actually moving your champion. Pretend to be a clone, fit right in,
See,
just like Westworld.
Fake clone, all right, Kobe, that's what it is. We brought it back.
All right, there you go.
He was a fake clone in that one. It's the real Maple, and we are into this one. It's a 6,000 gold lead, says Flash Wolves. Looking to improve to 1-1, powering to be at least top 3 in this tournament. Some said number 2. They did lose to Team WE earlier, but Flash Wolves could still continue their chain of...
That's actually a really cool mechanic right there. The control ward in the pit will disable a ward, but if you play versus Ivern, you should always try and kill it, because he can put a brush around the ward, and then the control ward no longer works. And actually, really hard for you to then kill that ward unless you can go and sweep it.
Until the brush times out, right?
Until the brush times out. There have been some other changes to Ivern and Baron interactions. Sadly, we won't be able to see them because you used to be able to hide Baron in the brush. At least now you have to make a wall of brushes to deny the vision, because you can no longer hide epic monsters in a single brush.
Gotta use more like a smoke grenade here in this one. Maple still playing a bit of split push, not willing to attack the ward control, not quite enough in the jungle to feel safe. Turns out he did have some time, but again, it's a risk you don't want to take when you're already up 6,000 gold. He's going to retreat for now.
Yeah, right now the Flash was looking to get the mid push every single time. Now trying to challenge Phreak here. He has to flash out, get a ward, go back to mid, push in more wards, and that's going to be the cycle.
Not even an ultimate used there, or one longer than the LeBlanc ultimate for Flash Wolves, and they continue to get these long cooldown summoner spells available, though.
Rooted pops the Zonias to block not a lot. Ulti used by Rengar running back to the bot side. They're going to find Trick on this one. Ivern going to run out of health. He's going to be taken down. That's a killing spree now for the Flash Wolves jungler. Looking for Zven as well, down to 1/3. Redemption's going to heal him up, but there has been no front line for G2 to stand behind.
And this is where G2 is not used to the way this is going. When you contest that deep vision, domestically in Europe, they would just see the team, retreat, go back for the mid push. Right now, Expect goes for a panic teleport. Well, get cancelled. The Flash Wolves, they're just powering on through. They're going further than most teams would have, and they're really telling on these picks.
Jungler dead means Baron Nashers the attempt 6,000 health, and this one MMD waiting to push back the team. Maple buying some time against PerkZ, 5,000. Here comes the engage on a 1. They push then in a bit. He's cutting away. He's going to survive for now. He'll kill off 1, and he's safe in the back line. 1 for 0 so far. It's a 4v4. Expect rooted up, going to be taken out. No. Flash is first. MMD's going to chase in now. Maple still wants to find the target. A quick anchor in. They can take him out. He gets back just in time. Takes a summoner heal from Betty. Now MMD forced to run back half HP, and Flash Wolves are going to kite this one away, but G2 win a fight 4v5. This is what they were waiting for. Yeah, the composition really shines in these kite environments. When Zven has his flash, gets out of danger, does not get one shot. That is when this composition shines. You can use the 90 caliber, the multiple traps, have Nautilus peel for you, and then win that fight. Flash will have to disengage. Exactly. All eyes, are on Zven, and Karsa trying to dive him there, but such a good job by the front line holding everyone up so that it was just Karsa, and Zven was able to kite back there and take him down. PerkZ here though. Maple though. Gonna land the E, a lot of damage into this one. PerkZ gonna take a ton of punishment, could go down shortly. The brush, the locket gonna buy enough time, he'll stay alive. Plenty damage dealt, and of course PerkZ using up his cleanse to get away, but fair trade for Maple's teleport anyway. Have to be wary, because even though the proactive offensive play has so far found a lot of success here at MSI, one of the things of old that you used to worry about with Flash Wolves was kind of timing out in the game. And G2 definitely are inching closer and closer to their goal. Yeah, so this is the initial play here. So often PerkZ would just be fine here. Look at Expect, he's trying to save his mid laner, using teleport, cancels it, and then just forces Phreak to walk in the jungle. G2 were not ready for this play. And remember, they had just blown Trick's flash without having to use any long cooldowns of their own. So that's why they are rewarded with the kill there. MMD very close to getting sent right into the center of the team.
but he is able to get out, uses the heal as well, and then they can kite.
Then right after this play, an aggressive teleport gets used instead of straight sending MMD to the bottom lane. And that was a macro error from FlashWolves because they had about 2 minutes on that teleport where they have an advantage, but they had a pushed in bottom lane. And that was making them suffer. But right now they're trying to use that TP advantage.
Pushing in on Phreak as well, plenty of damage up to him. He heals back up with Redemption, and he's only going to get slow.
If G2 can get the reset here, this looks really good for them because they have Expect pushing in the bottom lane. He now has the wave prio and he has teleport, but Mithy's going low.
And Mithy's going to get dropped right away, and Maple will get away just in time despite the root. He gets away, and Redemption heals him back up to an acceptable level. Ocean Drakes will help on top of that one, and yeah, Expect can push the bot lane, but this is going to be another Baron attempt.
Coming up huge there. Maple and Betty, they land the snare, able to get a crucial pick onto Mithy so that they can actually force on the other side of the map, and the teleport is started.
It's a slow Baron so far, and G2 is contesting Maple half HP, so they have to reset. But at least they get Expect away from the bottom lane and they get his teleport.
Flash was once again able to find that single kill and maybe learning the lesson from last time. So the team fight after, maybe not one that they want. Zven can cut through that front line so easily, especially when it's the Rengar who does not have any armor.
G2, though, got their first turret of the game. So much of this gold difference is in this standing cold of these outer turrets. They've been getting lower and lower with every little minion wave that crashes down. Expect just before he teleports, builds up the minion wave just big enough, and they finally get their first one. That is some much needed cash that could really help inflate the counter move here. But PerkZ actually gets circled in on.
That's not going to be healthy for him in any way at all. Back through the turret, going to get rooted. There's no way out of this one. He flashes for it, and he's going to try to buy a bit more speed. And actually, look at this one. PerkZ running for dear life, but SwordArt is here, going to land the pick slow. PerkZ going to find some way to get out. Needs to land one more spell. There he is. The shield not going to be cast in time. The stun from MMD's body slam kept him from doing so. And that is the kill picked up on the G2 mid laner.
Thankfully for G2, FlashWolves are not going to be able to have Maple at the Baron quite yet. He's rotating around for a snipe here. Another 4 versus 5 defense on this Baron. Can FlashWolves actually pull it off this time?
Missing one of the carries though. MMD in the front line gets the Lulu open. Doesn't get any CC from it. Really Expect tank in the front nicely as well. And this 4v5 is working out well enough. Maple on the front. He can't kill Zven easily though. Shields are back on. Nice chunk out. Mithy's at half.
Maple had to flash out there.
And it looked like they just used the exhaust on the Maple clone this time. He continually has them guessing with this LeBlanc, gaining so many cooldowns.
But they're also just respecting him. They don't have time to figure out the half second or the second it takes, like, is this LeBlanc real? Because otherwise he will show you whether he is. They're immediately turning every single time either Maple or his clone shows up, they're turning because they can. Because they're in the right formation. Expect is soaking in the front and there's just simply not enough damage. And that makes us question this ultra defensive build from Betty. Because how often has Betty been under pressure? You're playing against a kite comp that wants to protect their AD carry. You're not going to get hit as a Varus. Like, look what he's building.
I mean, you can look at Karsa's build for the meta game that the FlashWolves are playing, and Karsa built 3 Magic Resist items before he finally builds himself the Warden's build. He does not have stats to deal with Zven.
Speaking of stats, we did look at, regular season stats. Oh, never mind. Let's get back into some tank matchups here.
Woo! Exciting tank matchup, Kobe.
There was an AD carry.
I know, you're right.
Back to the stats, though. Looking at the regular season stats of Betty, he did have decent all-around stats, but something that does jump out is the amount of gold that he was given by his team compared to the amount of damage output. The percentage of gold was over the actual percentage of damage output that he had, which is very unique for an AD carry. And it's because a lot of his gold is spent on defensive items and not necessarily on being fully optimized as an offensive champion. And it doesn't really cost you when you're very close to smashing most of the games and winning all the games in your league. But if you do come up where you need that extra bit of DPS, it could.
It's a question we were asking for MSI is, did Betting to step up to carry these games? We'll see as this continues on. A nice little attempted ulti just to buy some time, and it makes them reposition 3,000, 4,000 health, I should say, on a Baron. PerkZ in the front line, not going to get body slam. Daisy tanks it up. MMD caught out. Down to 2/3. Redemption heals him back up to 3/4 and more. Quick knock comes in, and Guardian Angel still on, though. Could mean MMD runs low.
And look at how comfortable G2 has been. They've learned that these Barons will go down super slow here. They don't even have their tank here. They're playing without Expect. He was setting up the push in the mid lane, and FlashWolves, I think they ran out of time. Betty built too slow. They don't have too many carries here. Maple was too passive, and right now G2 is taking over.
Full difference, 4K stunning up Betty. Nice wild growth buys a bit more time, and he will not get taken out yet by any of the back line. MMD going to lose Guardian Angel, the shields, the heals. It's not going to be enough. GA popped. And what can they do against Maple, though? It's going to to be the clone once again, tanking some of the skill shots. MMD hooked in, that should be not quite the kill. They don't have the damage, just barely not. But G2 have control of the mid lane, still looking for mid lane tier 2. MMD must heal up first.
Doesn't matter though whether they kill them or not, because they have the sustained damage output. The only risk is great flanks, and as long as G2 is aware of where the Flashwolves flankers are, like Maple right here, they should be fine.
2 more turrets for G2. Now can they escape with their money?
Can MMD make the play happen? No explosive cast for about 15 more seconds. Gonna land another slow, which hits Trick. It's gonna be the root onto him as well. They've got a kite back. Sven's gonna get rooted. He just gets out of range in time, and now Karsa's over the wall. Can't find him yet. Plenty of damage, though. Maple doesn't land the skill shots just yet, and Sven's gonna stay alive through the shields. The chase still on the top side. The kill does come through onto Trick, and Karsa chases away Mithy. 1 for 0. The Flashwolves TP pays off.
Incredibly important thing to keep your eye on in these team fights is something I've been trying to coin as the AD carry uptime, but AD carries kind of aren't a role anymore. So marksman uptime, basically. Sure. But how much DPS Zven is able to get out while working around the crowd control that the enemies have to offer. And while they're kiting back, he's constantly throwing out the autos, procking the headshot, and trying to fend off Maple. Flash Wolves, though, after that hit onto Trick, are again back to the Baron. It's going down fairly slowly again, but they should be able to finish this one off. You know, G2 might get a stray Karma Q or something in there, but that would really be the only steal.
Yeah, they lost their jungler, so this is the one opening the Flash Wolves were looking for in an attempt to peel for Zven. Trick maybe underestimated his own value to the team that should have been expected trying to peel right there. So in that sense, losing your jungle is now worth protecting your AD carry if it's so heavily centered around this Nashor buff.
And pushing power is something that Flash Wolves desperately needed to really kick this game into overdrive for themselves. We'll see what they do with the Baron buff right after we get back out of this replay. Like here, take a look, MMD trying to delay them, and the barrel barely gets the slow onto Trick.
Yeah, expect wasn't there, but right now we're seeing the reaction Elder from G2 eSports.
Looking to rush it down, MMD is nearby, Karsa's in smite range, ulti is on, he's gonna look for the play here, and this one explosive cast buys some time, Smite's gonna go to Karsa! It's a 3-stack here in this one, the ulti's gonna be in, a lot of damage, first kill picked off, 5v4, what can G2 get out of this? They are stronger despite the buffs, if they can push in.
Maple is still trailing them behind this river. It's definitely gonna be hard for them to find an opening, but 4 versus 5 now, G2 no buffs, but the extra man advantage.
But they achieved their goal. They see the enemy take Baron for free. They start reactionary Elder, and the only goal is prevent the Baron push in the next 2 minutes, and they do exactly that by taking down the key member in Karsa right there. 45's Flash Wolves will not be able to win the fight with their ultra defensive builds. So again, we're stalling for a few more minutes.
In the end, though, they did not come away with the actual kill on this dragon. Karsa gets inside, and him being able to secure that buff, while it does delay some of the Baron buff usage, now that Karsa goes back in here, we'll take a look at the smite. Incredibly close, yeah.
970.
He just got back inside the brush there, hopping in, and he does give up his life through the GC chain. Good traps there from Zven, but it kind of ups the ante, because even though there's less duration on the Baron, it's also an Elder Dragon on top of that. And they really do have to worry about the extra damage coming through.
There are some windows right here. Karsa was dead, just respawned. MMD's topping out teleport, and PerkZ does have the Realm up available. The flank play is a possibility. They can get behind SwordArt or Betty. G2 don't find that opening, but the fact that Flash was pushed at all was probably a bit of a risk that didn't need to be taken. Betty now shadowing in the top lane, looking for the play on top lane tier 2. Should be going down without much of a hitch. G2's rotating, and Flash will play safe.
Flash is trying to keep all 3 lanes pushing. They don't commit to the top turret, and the bottom one is going to stall out. Neither is mid, so they're waiting for the rest of the reinforcements to come up, slowly take down the secondary turret. G2 should be fairly okay with giving away secondary turrets and make their stand at these inhibitor ones.
Makes the gold lead 7,000 right now. Karsa happy to take away jungle camp repeatedly as well. Certainly a slow-paced endgame to Flash. There's no way of pushing this one too quickly as they continue to wait on the siege. Banner of command done for Mithy, can maybe help keep the waves in a decent spot.
Yeah, I really like that banner pickup, because there's already one locket available. Zven is staying alive, and the only thing you need in a game that has been so condensed, after the Flash Wolves were always playing in the same area, is just slow pushes on the side lane, because it will free you up after Flash Wolves are so desperate for these picks.
Banner for expect as well, so double banner really trying to spread the map out a bit more and allow the 5-man group to stay together.
There is one in the bottom lane, for example, so all G2 right now need to do is hold this top lane, and then Baron can fight its way out.
Rengar has popped the ulti. Karsa can see where everyone is. Finds no openings though in the mid lane. Sorry, top lane wave going to be cleared easily enough. There's a defensive SwordArt in the bot side as well from what I saw. Was that? No, it's a ward. I'm silly. Sorry.
Yeah, Maple still holding the Baron buff on the minions in the mid lane though. They do get that turret.
Locket shield buys a bit of time though. Turret's going to go down. A lot of CC on towards Betty, but he's not the primary threat. Mithy forces a flash away. Maple takes him out of the back line anyway. The flash means nothing. That's a 1 for 0 so far, and Karsa stays healthy. Expect to be next up. Chain's going to be onto him. Going to get flashed away, but Karsa maybe over chase. 2 more attacks will do it, but Zven can't get the autos in. 1 for 0 so far. Still looking to keep the siege moving. So Baron has timed out. The Cannon walks in and takes the aggro, and we're going to keep pushing.
What a look from Maple there on the side, though. So much DPS coming from this LeBlanc. So many re-engages on the cooldowns, and that pick is enough for them to get inside the base.
So 5v4 means they can keep going with the turret. That there's nothing really nothing left to defend them. The Ocean Drake region going to help keep the front line a little bit healthier. The G2 going to look again for the 4v5 to kite them back. We know Zven can do plenty of damage here, and so far he's okay. A bit low. Once again, the ulti's back up looking for Betty. He's pretty far in the backline. MD is going to get caught out. Going to lose the Guardian Angel. They finally hit him enough. And Maple low as well. Down below 1,000. This could be a killable champion. Here comes the re-engage towards MMD. Oh, a minion tanked the anchor. An explosive cast disengaged pretty nicely. MMD over the wall. He's going to be fine on this one. Roam over to chase. They should catch him out of this one. Rune Prison, if you get the vision, yes, they can. That's going to be a kill picked up. Once the Guardian Angel down, now G2 in a 5v4.
Yeah, we see the change in approaching from Flash. They can't take Zven down, so they're trying to attack the support system first. We're seeing more focus onto Mithy, onto Trick. If G2 can adapt for that, they can fight their way out here, because PerkZ and Zven were untouched later in the fight. And we also see, once a few key cooldowns get used, Flash Wolves, they're running out of damage again.
Exactly. The key is target switching here. After you see cooldowns pop, after you see shields go up, and then Flash Wolves do a very good job at that. But it's right back at it. G2 striking back. They're able to chase down the front line, and that means that Flash Wolves have to open their doors.
25 seconds till the top laners back up. They could go for a lot here. They won't go for Brooklyn. They're not going for the end game push, just the mid inhibitor and back out. Zven cannot scale any farther. He is full end game build, full damage. Ruin King last. I think it's a great choice here as well. And so Zven can't scale anymore. The rest of his teammates can get some items though.
Yeah, but the team is being fed gold here with the bottom lane push. The turret in your minimap is falling, and here you see the chase potential as well. G2 have a great kite composition, but if they have a controlled fight, they can use that realm more aggressively, land these key CC targets in the front, and then chase the Flash Wolves down.
Very good key round warp there from PerkZ to secure that kill and open up the mid lane here. Now they actually have the inhibitor, the super minions coming down, a little bit of extra lane pressure for themselves.
And we're on the verge of seeing potentially the favorite for second place in this tournament, deemed by a lot of analysts, start the day 0-2.
Sure.
G2, in a not so great way, pick up one of those games that they were actually slotted to lose.
Absolutely, and they looked okay against SKT. G2 might be the better team, a better team than we thought coming in, but of course it's still a 7,000 deficit to work through.
Meanwhile, G2 have done a pretty good job of funneling a lot of extra farm into Zven as well, and he has actually completely peaked out here. Full item build, already swapped out the boots for
100% crit chance.
Exactly, for the extra Phantom Dancer there, and he'll have to rely on that for the speed, but the DPS is going to be insane.
I wonder if Flash Polymorph from SwordArt is actually the key to win this game. Because Caitlyn with all those items,
yeah,
you can just get a Hex on her.
Yep, no Mercurial in there, no Mikhail's either.
Yeah, Mikhail's an Ivern.
Okay, Ivern
hidden very well.
They
Deep in the forest.
Supports.
Deep in the forest, they hide the Mikhails.
And we're about to have the third banner of command as well, as Phreak is building that one as well, which means he'll be full build and running out of item slots is pretty much all of G2. So the gold lead stops mattering as there's only the support and half an item on the jungler left to build here in this one. G2 essentially are at endgame, and it's about Flash Wolves, whether they're Drake buffs and their prior map control, though that's going away with the inhibitor deficit, can't do anything about this, or if G2 have now turned the corner and they're the ones with the lead.
This is where it actually becomes interesting to watch teams that pile on so many supports. You get to see the difference between, good shield users and the poor ones. Here we go, they're starting up the Baron very quickly.
Yeah, but dangerous though, because Baron eliminates one kite angle, so Flash was taking a good collapse on the Zven. He can only run up here. He can't run into the pit, for example.
Yeah, they'd run into MMD. You can see he's sitting on that side, but gets jumped over with the blast cone. They can try to rush this one down. Maple on the backside, looking for the anchor in. They're going to find the damage to the Karsa. A root is there, but Zven's got to watch out for Maple. Kites back. There's going to be the stun on the Betty, pushing forward onto Karsa as well. Zven half HP. He's got to be careful. He's attacked on all sides right now. MMD not going to find the target, though. We're going to get lifesteal tanked as PerkZ pops Zonia's to buy some time on the top side of the fight. It's going to be SwordArt knocked down. That's a 1 for 0. Make that a 2 as Betty falls as well. Zven Zven jumping forward to make sure that can happen, and G2 in a 5v3.
G2 safety in numbers, and they fight the wolves off from all angles there. Really good separation of the shields. Mithy shielding the top line while Trick on the bottom side there. They kept Zven up the entire time and never let anyone get isolated for that focus fire from Flash Wolves, and now they're right up the middle.
Maximum efficiency from these wind speakers as well. You know, 5 Karma shields there, looking for the base.
Here we go, in towards it. The buffed up minions here as well. They're immune to magic. Maple in the front line. Karsa into the back, can't do any. Nearly picks out Zven because of Maple's Q, but it's not going to be enough just yet. Turret number 1 going to fall. MMD running out of health, could be the second one to drop, and that will be a Guardian Angel. No, actually the kill picked up. They're all dead. It's over, and G2 get the comeback upset win over Flash Wolves, improving to 1-1 to close out the first day. Zven on your screen right now deserves hugs from the rest of his team. They were doing that the whole game as well. The shields, the bodies, everything. And Zven, deathless 2-0-6, but did so much of the work in the team fights. That comp pays off.
Plays utility AD carry in the Ashe, misses every single arrow. He's like, nah, let's go back to carry. But they did play it really slow in the early to mid-game, so it was quite a long, drawn-on game. And there is a world where Betty actually built some damage, and the Flash Wolves just roll over G2.
Flash Wolves did give them a decent amount of breathing room, and it was just barely enough for G2 to hold on there. Really, really well done there until the end of this last team fight. Flash Wolves were continually poking and find openings.
Zven did about double anyone else in the game's damage.
As expected.
It's about a 3-way tie for second among PerkZ, Betty, and Maple. What it's worth, Betty did actually outdamage Maple this game, but when you can see the kind of damage you can get out of the bot lane and the kind of damage you actually saw out of the Flash Wolves bot lane, you're seeing a very large difference.
In G2's composition, everything possible to get the maximum AD carry uptime that you could possibly hope for here. Should always be getting auto attacks out. If you play this composition with an AD carry that is too scared to get off the autos or does not track the short cooldowns of the CC from the enemy front line, then it fails completely.
Yeah, it's really just, it is difficult. At the moment you've got to make such great decisions here, and Zven was supported. The fate, the hope of Europe was with him right now, and he definitely put that weight on his shoulders, and he held up well. The man definitely squats. He was able to put on all of Europe into his shoulders, and with the shields it helped. And he was able to go
deathless. Team effort. Everybody's helping. They have great spotters.
Yeah, they're spotting, they're helping, keep the plates up and everything. But again, this was a team win for G2. But coming down to it, the hardest role was Zven's, and he played it well.
Yeah, he's just really. It's really fun to see him play the way he stutter steps. Get that up that Colby talks about. If you I've ever had the pleasure of playing with him too, and it's like you're playing with a perfect AI. You can set up a play and he will execute it to perfection in laning phase. He drops very few CS throughout the season as well. He was averaging, we tracked like perfect CS versus the CS he was getting. He was very close to those numbers while still having pressure, chip damage, and rarely dying in lane. So he's a very complete AD carry in that regard, and I'm really happy he finally gets to show it on the international stage, because G2 Esports as an organization, they were so desperate for more victories on international stage.
And again, this is against Karsa, against Maple, some of the guys most prolific on these assassins at looking for these openings and finding their way back. Yet he was always at the center of the composition, behind the Nautilus, behind the Ivern. And yes, Mithy had to sacrifice himself sometimes. He gets picked up. Sometimes Trick gets picked off, the stragglers, but it's never the core of the composition. They're okay with losing one of the shielders, one of the supports, one of the healers basically of the group.
But as long as Zven was alive, you never cracked an inhibitor. Baron was still difficult anytime you wanted it. 4v5, there were several of those victories there for G2. And if you take single games as properly emblematic of how good teams are, G2 is a top 3 team. Like, you have to come in power ranking these squads, and G2 is maybe 4th or 5th, but you beat Flash. I know it's one game, right? There's much more to be played.
I mean, Team WE
but
is still
taking
there.
this win, yes, which is SKT, WE, then maybe G2 is 3rd, right? Because I think you still put them above Marines, you put them above TSM, and you just had them beat Flash Wolves, so maybe G2 are the number 3 team this tournament.
Starting to like you, Phreak. Europe top 3.
I'm
North
casting it with
America
you.
Still struggling here, so.
Hey,
my fault, my
I'm
bad.
not calling that one out either way, though. It was a great win right there from G2. So for more on that first win, MSI, let's get a word in with their man in the mid lane.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I'm joined by PerkZ because I absolutely wanted to talk to you. I absolutely wanted to talk to you first. Of course, you can enjoy the fans as well. What's kind of the first feeling or the first thoughts? Is it relief? Is it just happiness? Or what's going through your mind?
Well, I'm just really happy that we finally succeeded. Our all hard work, we've been playing the whole split and the bootcamp before MSI has paid off because we had a pretty close game against SKT, made some major mistakes that they're obviously an extremely good team, so they abused it and they late game team comp was just better. And today, this game, our late game team comp was just better, so Flash was played really, really good early game too, and we made a lot of mistakes, but our comp is a lot less forgiving than theirs, so we ended up winning in the end.
You ended up winning in the end, and that was the plan, but it does seem risky because the Flash Wolves got very much ahead in the early game, but you seem to be quite confident in all of it during the game that you could close it out. Is that also the product of just what you've learned over the past year?
Well, we just tried not to tilt and play to our winning condition, and our winning condition was Jasper with 5 items and Karma, Lulu, Ivern, sorry, and I'm also like a tank because we just have to all peel for Caitlyn, and Caitlyn will kill the whole team. So we actually knew all the time we got this game in the bag.
Well, talking to you now, obviously, is such a big difference from last year, and you guys have spoken all split about this is all that matters. Coming here and showing something for our fans and for ourselves. So what does this win now mean in the big picture? What's the big picture for MSI, for G2?
Well, the big picture is always for everyone to win the tournament. Even though against SKT is obviously the hardest opponent, and it will be really hard to ever win against them, I think, but we can do it. But first, we focus game by game. Tomorrow we have World Elite and TSM, which is not going to be easy. Like, even Gigabyte Marines are a really strong team, and I don't know, we just have to take it game by game and slowly get out of groups.
Well, you guys, I said it before, you guys learned so much getting down here, but was there anything that you specifically used when you stepped on stage here today that helped you to keep your cool?
Not really anything. It just I just played myself. I was myself, and I just feel like I played the whole split, and it's fine. And the crowd is really awesome too.
They are awesome. A final question maybe. We know that you hurt your foot, and sometimes they say if you lose like one strength, you gain another, so I hope this hasn't been causing you too much trouble.
I didn't hear anything.
How is your foot?
My foot is fine. I just twisted some ligaments, and I have to wear this for like a week, and then I'll be fine. And the crowd is really insane.
Yeah, the crowd is real insane, so I think we're going to cut it short there, but fantastic talking. Congratulations, and now back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Shox. Fans so passionate, we can't even get our interviews done. But in all seriousness, yeah, it is a great problem to have. In all seriousness, though, here, G2, with the perceived toughest schedule coming into the day, and 1-1 on the day, beating the Flash Wolves in the late game here. I mean, you heard PerkZ say they were confident all game long that they could take it, but we do have to admit that there was an advantage built by the Flash Wolves, maybe not pressed as hard as it could have been in terms of closing it out against this G2 squad.
Yeah, there was a big hiatus there kind of in the mid-game where the Flash Wolves were really indecisive about what they wanted to do around the map. It seemed like they were really keen on the Baron, which in theory makes sense, but in the execution, that's when things went sideways. Itemization, I know, Isaiah, we were talking about this all the time backstage. The fact that Maple chose to itemize for like the Death Cap, the Morellos, the Void Staff, instead of going more of like the Lichbane, the Gunblade, like having split push pressure in a side lane, meant that LeBlanc had to be there in those 5v5s. And if you're just ramming into the 5v5s and it's not working for you, you don't get to make use of the full birth of your composition, playing those side lanes, taking free towers, and tearing G2 apart.
I think there's a continuation of the itemization point. You look at Betty, who was once again going very utility, very tanky for an AD carry build. Things like Mormar, Mortius, going for the utility rather than necessarily building damage. And then predictably, if you have 3 people building supportive itemization for Zven and Ryze basically being a frontliner as well, we did get to that point 50 minutes in where the burst damage from the LeBlanc tapered off, low damage build from the Varus. There just wasn't the damage to power through in. Zven free hitting with 100% crit. We know how that goes.
I mean, you talk about this LoL, Frost, and Isaac, I want to look at some replays here. You can help us work through them. G2 dealing with the Baron pressure, though, is very interesting throughout this game because Flash Wolves kept going back to it.
Yeah, I mean, although PerkZ said they knew they had it the whole time, stopping this Baron was so massive because if Flash Wolves win this fight, if they take this Baron, they probably close out the game from there.
And the team comp here, remember, is a variation of what TSM was running earlier. But then once again, you have Zven in the AD carry position, and his ability to find space, to always do consistent damage, to trust himself, go the 100% crit, didn't need boots in the late game when all the shielding was there. This is a meta comp. I think on this patch, it is the strongest possible way to play League of Legends because there's just not much of an answer in the late game with most team comps.
You gotta get to the late game,
Exactly,
though.
you have to get there, and in general, G2 were disciplined where they need to.
Everybody wants to talk. I love it. I'm going back to Azale, then to Frost.
It's also an AD carry who has proven that he can play these sorts of comps. When you look at Zven, his success at Worlds, back in Origin, it was Tristana playing these protected AD carry type compositions, and he's one of their best players. They played exceptionally well, and I have to talk a little bit more about itemization just because I thought
let's
that
do it.
G2
It was cool.
Did it so well. The fact that we got not only one but two, and a third banner was actually being built against two AP people who can answer in the side lanes. In late game, it gave G2 full side lane control. I think not only the 100% crit build, but having all the support items. Double Knight's Vow for both PerkZ and their Caitlyn, because it's a two-threat team. Neither one of these guys can die or the team falls apart. So I think there were so many things that they did correctly. And inversely, you talked about the LeBlanc not building for split push, Betty not building an IE, not building enough damage to punch through the tank line. I just think this was really a story of one team itemizing perfectly and the other team not doing the best job.
Free side lane pressure in a game where you're down in gold. Frost, I'm coming to you. I know you wanted to jump in on that conversation.
I love the idea about siege composition. So I have this very strong opinion that I think that a siege composition is the absolute best way to play in League of Legends if it's done perfectly, simply because it's up tempo all the time. And what that means is that if you have a siege comp, there's never a moment where it's not like a cooldown composition. Like, you don't throw the Ashe arrow and then you no longer have that. You have to wait the 40 seconds for it to come back up for you to be relevant again. If you have the Caitlyn, the Ivern, you're always ready to go. You're always at your win condition. You just need to be approaching those towers. And if you have good flanking vision to cover it, because that's what siege comps are weak against, no one can stop you.
And it's all about positioning, right? Let's take a look at 35 minutes in. G2 taking a play out of SKT's playbook that happened against them just here in game one today. Going to contest the Baron, rotate mid for a turret.
So,
you go ahead.
The biggest issue here is this is like a perfect microcosm of everything that went wrong this game for Flash Wolves. Again, there's no real reason that they should be there. Like, either commit to the Baron, don't be on the Baron. Maple should be in a side lane, split pushing. He doesn't have the itemization for it, but they just constantly are shoehorning themselves into this play, and ultimately G2 just get to walk up, push them off of it, and then use their siege composition how it was meant to be done.
They actually take two turrets there. Sorry.
But by that point, there was no good decisions. Coming back to the banner of command, you can't go for that split push. You go for the team fight, it doesn't work. 53,000 damage just from the Caitlyn. That's Varus and LeBlanc combined from the side of Flash Wolves, but they had no good decisions. They couldn't go for the split push. LeBlanc can't get through that banner of command minion, and they can't kill anyone because the burst was outscaled as well. So
here's where I disagree, though. I mean, I think that the decision is, what I think went wrong for Flash Wolves is they try to play the perfect decision, and there is no perfect decision. I think that they were around Baron so many times that they needed to choose their time to actually force it down, take the Baron, because if they took the Baron with their earlier lead, I think they could have ended the game. I think they played too risk-averse, too scared, and it cost them.
All right, well, clearly we got strong feelings about this game on the desk, but we got to push ourselves to a break. G2 Esports has picked up their first win here at MSI, and in a few minutes, SKT and Gigabyte Marines will look for their second. Catch you here right after the break.
All right, here we go, action, baby. Ults it in, its only trick in the front, but he's Whimsy just running out of HP, and talk about efficiency. Delivers first blood to Karsa.
Call on that Ryze ultimate, and it's still going on.
Oh, Redemption's not going to do much for him, but he still will go down. The trade kill is best as it could have been. This might range ulti, Azan's going to look for the play here, and this one explosive cast buys some time. Spike's going to go to Karsa. It's a 3-stack here in this one. He's going to be in. A lot of damage. First kill picked off. 5v4 buys some time on the top side of the fight. It's going to be SwordArt knocked down. That's a 1-for-0. Make that a 2 as Betty falls as well. Zven jumping forward to make sure that can happen, and G2 in a 5v3.
Good job. Nice.
And G2 gets a comeback upset win over Flash Wolves, improving to 1-1 to close out the first day.